Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Snom M85 Ruggedized DECT cordless handset. That is a mouthful, but this is a pretty cool little phone, and we're going to talk about all of the features of this device, where you might want to use it, and we're also going to dig in and actually set it up. So for those of you who don't care about the device itself, you just want to see, hey, how do I get this thing set up? How do I get the handset paired with the base? All of that sort of stuff. We're going to talk about that later in the video. But first, let's talk about this phone itself, because this thing is pretty good. Now, I brought out, for comparison, the Yealink W60P DECT handset. Right, so this is the Yealink W60P. It comes as a kit for $189, where you get the DECT base, and you get one handset. Then additional handsets are something like $92. They're somewhere in that neighborhood. This is what we typically sell to customers who are looking for a DECT solution, and this solution works really, really well. It's $189 for this kit. This one, on the other hand, is $329 just for the handset. Okay, so why the big difference? That's one of the things that we're going to be trying to dig in here. I was never really sure why this Snom equipment was so expensive, and it's for a number of reasons. So let's start by talking about this DECT base here. So this is the Snom M700 DECT base station. This DECT base station is $259, and then, as I said, the M85 handset is $329. So you're looking at almost $600 just to get the first phone connected to this solution. So why so expensive? All right, so number one, the big difference between this base station and the base station that comes with the Yealink is that this is much more scalable. Okay, so this base station is what's known as a multi-cell base station solution, meaning that you can have up to 253 of these DECT base stations around your office or around your property that these phones like roam between, just like your phone does when you're connected to a corporate wireless network. Okay, so you can have up to 253 base stations and up to 1,000 handsets on that installation. So there's a huge benefit right there. The old Yealink stuff, these used to have like repeaters that would kind of help you get a little bit more range out of them, but for the most part, it's just one DECT base station, and that's it. Now, Yealink does have a multi-cell solution that's either just came out or it's coming out pretty soon, but I have not yet had a chance to play with Yealink's DECT solution myself, so I can't really speak to that. The DECT base, you don't have to buy the super expensive handset with the DECT base. Snom makes 3 different handsets. This is just sort of the top of the line ruggedized one. But they have the Snom M85, which is basically the same exact handset that Sangoma uses for their DECT solution, and the same handset that Mitel uses for their DECT solution. So basically, you know, these products, this DECT base, these handsets, I'm not sure about the Yealink ones, but there's one big company that licenses these out to the other providers, Sangoma, Snom, Mitel, etc. And then they basically just rebrand the devices and then resell it as their own, which, hey, that's fine. I'm totally okay with that, because if it works, it works. And this one, so far, definitely seems to work pretty well. Snom also has the M65 handset, which is it's not like their base model, but it's a little bit more ruggedized, kind of an in-between the super ruggedized one and the smaller one. And this DECT base station itself is PoE power. As you can see, there is power, but I only have a single cable going to it. I like everything being PoE. All right, so let's talk about this handset itself. Now, why is one handset worth $329? This handset is developed for outdoor use in industrial settings, is what it says. So like if you're gonna be, you know, the foreman at a coal mine, this is the handset that you're gonna wanna be walking around with. It does come with a belt clip attached. You can also get replacement belt clips if you need them. It has Bluetooth connectivity for a wireless headset. It also has a 3.5 millimeter headset jack if you want a wired headset. Full SIP connectivity. It'll do all the sort of standard SIP stuff that you are used to. And it has a couple of other like interesting features. So if you look right on the top here, there's this red button. This red button is an alarm button. It's meant to basically be your emergency button, your call 911 kind of button. You can configure this button so that when the button is pressed, and it's hard to press this button, it's very rare that you're going to accidentally hit the top of this phone, but when this button is pressed, you can program this handset to automatically call a predetermined number, whether that's 911 or like the office or whatever number you want to program in as the emergency number for this phone. On top of that, this phone has a new feature called a dead man's sensor. Now, I have not played with this feature, but apparently what it is for, I'll just read it to you. It says, thanks to its integrated location sensors, the Snom M85 comes with so-called dead man's feature. If the handset registers an extended period of motionlessness, like when it's laid down like this, you can program the phone to say if it's been like just sitting down like this for 2 minutes, starts triggering some alarms, right? Call this number or just trigger some sort of alarm. It says if programmed to do so, it will send an emergency message in order that, for example, an unconscious employee can be given assistance. In addition to sensors, the Snom M85 features an optional wrist loop attached to the phone, which I don't know where that wrist loop, oh here, I think it goes right here. So there's a wrist loop you can put on the phone that if the phone gets detached from the wrist loop, it will also send alarms to predetermined numbers. So that's pretty cool. I don't know how useful that feature is. The deployment that I'm using this for is actually for a retirement home where they specifically wanted some rugged handsets because they apparently just beat the crap out of them, and this is very good for that. So yeah, I mean, is it worth it? Again, very expensive, but that's what you're going to pay for. This thing is IP65 dust and weather resistant. So if you need a strong multi-cell ruggedized handset solution, then this is a pretty good one, and I would definitely recommend taking a look at this device. So, all that being said, how do you actually set this thing up? Let's talk about that next. I'm going to move over to my desk, and we're going to log into the GUI interface of this DECT base, and we will set it up from scratch. All right, just to prove a quick point, here is the Snom M25 office handset. This is sort of the baby brother to the M85, and look at the base on this thing, look at the handset itself. Now let's look at Sangoma's solution. The buttons are a little bit different on Sangoma's, but the base is exactly the same, right? So this is by the same manufacturer. Now let's look at Mitel's solution. And on Mitel's, the single cell DECT solution is exactly the same as Sangoma's. Same base, same buttons, same phone, etc. So the point is, shop around a little bit. Most of these phones are exactly the same. They're not really competitors of each other when you're licensing them from, one company that makes all of these different handsets. Okay, but let's look at the M700. So here we have the M700 software. Little side note here, this did not work for me in Google Chrome. I had to open up Firefox to configure the M700. So if your page is not loading for you and you're using Chrome, it could have been one of those ad blockers or privacy things that I have. I didn't actually figure it out. I didn't take the time to. It worked fine when I loaded it into Firefox. When you first log into the M700, the password is going to be admin. And then we can come over here. The first thing I do is I click on security. And I want to set the password. So the current password is admin. We're going to set it to a new, stronger password. And we're going to save that. Okay, the next thing you want to do is click on country and set up your country settings. Now I've set this to US, Canada, and Oregon, which is Pacific time zone. And so we're all good there. Now check this out, set time zone by country/region. That's a good idea to check that box. Then you don't have to worry about your time settings other than inputting an NTP server. So we're gonna save that setting if you need to save that setting, and then click on time. Now over here in time, by default, I've already input pool.ntp.org, but if when you first get this, there's nothing in this field up here for time server. So find a time server that is relatively close to your geographic location, input it in time server, and then you can use all of the rest of these defaults, because set daylight savings time by country region is checked and set time zone by country region is already checked. So that means you can't manually set those settings because you're basing your time off of the country settings that you already input, which is totally fine. Or you can uncheck those and do all of this manually. All right, once you have that in there, go ahead and hit save. And now let's go over to servers next. So in servers, I basically have all of this stuff default except for one setting, and that is where I am putting the IP or FQDN of the server that I'm registering this phone to. Now I called this server Beehive because that's just the location where this is getting installed, but the registrar should be the IP or FQDN of the SIP server that you're connecting the phones to. And then once you have that entered, just click submit down at the bottom. Finally, let's click extensions. And in extensions, we can see here that I've already added 2 extensions. I've added this one already, although it is not actually connected at the moment. We're gonna fix that in just a moment. But let's say we're gonna add a new extension. So we're gonna say add extension, and then you can call this whatever you want. So we're gonna call this handset 3. Oh, it doesn't give you that many fields. Phone 3, we'll call it. Handset, we're gonna make this a new handset. The extension is the extension number that it's gonna be. We'll just call this 250. The authentication username is also gonna be the extension number. The authentication password is gonna come from your PBX. So if you have SIP credentials in your PBX, your username is the authentication username and your password is the SIP password. So we'll just put in some random info there. For display name, this can be whatever you want it to be. We'll call this handset 3. And that's it, except for if you are using this with free PBX, you want to be able to check voicemail on this thing. You need a voicemail code, and the mailbox number for voicemail is *97. So you put that right here under mailbox number. If you have multiple servers that your DECT base can connect to, you also want to verify that your server is set to the IP address or FQDN that we just set up in the last step. Okay, so once all of that is done, you can click save, and you should now have a new extension. So like right here, I have a new extension. We can see the server, the display name, all that sort of good stuff. The last thing that we need to do is connect it to the server. And in order to do that, I'm gonna bring the camera closer so that I can hopefully film this thing as I'm actually connecting it to the server. It'll be tough, but I'll try. All right, so what we wanna do here is click the menu button, which is these 3 lines right here. So we're going to say menu, and then you want to bring it over to this little connectivity icon right there and hit select, or the center key. And then we have register, deregister, or select network. So we're going to say register. And now all of these are empty, right? So you can pick one of these, but what we want to do is just grab the first one. We're going to press that. It's going to say access code. Now this is the code that is inside of your M700 extensions page. And then you want to enter that access code into the phone. So in my case, it's the default, which is 0000. And we're going to hit OK. And if all goes well, it should just grab the first available extension. There we go. So it grabbed the first available extension, and we are now good to go. Let me run an echo test just to make sure we're connected to free PBX. *43, send.
You are about to enter an echo test. In this mode, everything you say will be repeated back to you just as soon as it is received.
All right, so there we go. That's all it takes. All right, so there you have it, a quick look at the Snom M85 Ruggedized Handset and the Snom M700 multi-cell DECT solution. This is a pretty good little package, and so far I really haven't had any problems with this other than one of the 5 handsets that I received was defective. It only worked on speakerphone, and the audio coming out of the handset itself was not there. So luckily that was just a quick RMA. The one that I received as a replacement worked just fine, and all of the rest of these handsets have been absolutely perfect. So I'm going to add these to my portfolio of phones that I sell. If you guys are interested in this solution or other voice over IP servers, hardware, phones, etc., make sure you contact me at crosstalksolutions.com. You can go through our store. We've got a lot of phones out there already. I'll probably add this one to our store coming up here pretty soon. Okay, what do you guys think about this phone? What is your use case for an IP65 weather and dust proof ruggedized handset? I'd love to hear how you guys would use this out in the wild. If you have any questions about it, put those down in the comments below and I will try to get those answered. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. My name is Chris with Crosstalk Solutions, and thank you so much for watching.